Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. I am your host, Joey Ricotta, joined as always by my good friend Jack Bushman at Jack Bushman 2. He is looking sharp, a little extra dapper. If you can't find us on the normal on tap bets, well, I mean, if you're listening to this and watching this, you probably have found us by now. I have no idea what I'm saying right now. But we are on the On Tap Golf Twitter channel at On Tap Golf. You can only choose one as far as Twitter streams go. So we are over there, but we highly suggest you go over to the YouTube channel at On Tap Sportsnet, because then you can interact with us. You can talk a little smack, tell us how much we suck at betting, tell us how much we don't know anything. And as my handle on Twitter says, at Joey Knows Nothing, I do know nothing. Jack, the Players Championship, it's the otherwise known as the fifth major of the year. It's here. Nice little field we have, of course, for this event. As always, we've had a lot of really nice fields lately. How are you feeling, my friend?
Yeah, that is the world of designated events on the PGA Tour. Kind of feels like this type of elite stacked field would only come around for the Players Championship. Now we've seen it 3 times in the last 4 weeks, I believe. But regardless, this is still one of, if not the best event of the PGA Tour season. I love TPC Sawgrass. It's a ridiculously chaotic course every year that, it's really hard to predict. It does make it a bit frustrating as us bettors are trying to break everything down. There's not a whole lot of consistency from guys year after year, and not any real turnover whatsoever, but that's what makes it exciting. Obviously, there's the Island Green 17th hole that makes things intriguing down the stretch. The 18th hole, too, has water in play. We've gotten a lot of good finishes at this tournament over the years. Unfortunately, I really haven't even come close to cashing an outright ticket. So hopefully, Joey, this will be the year as the Players is going on in the midst of my birthday weekend. My birthday will be on Saturday, so hopefully I'll continue some birthday luck over into Sunday, and we can cash an outright together at the fifth major, as you put it.
Absolutely, man. Happy early birthday, by the way. I'm absolutely rooting for you to hit an outright here, because you're not on quite the cooler I was on, but, obviously it hasn't been as successful here as far as outrights go lately. Getting that Chris Kirk W, super huge for me. I needed that like I needed air to breathe. It was sweating that thing out against Eric Cole on that final hole there, final few holes. Just insane. I didn't think he had a chance. And then I was like, fingers crossed, okay, maybe. Somehow he pulled it through. Last week, Jack, we had Scheffler. You had Scheffler as your one and done pick. I had Tyrrell Hatton, who's just a freaking nut job. Let's just throwing that out there. I don't know what his deal is. We already know this about him, but he was in full blown, like, when I miss a shot or feel like I have a bad shot, I'm just going to freak out and just make a weird face and just talk to myself, and my hand's going to go here, and I'm going to act like it was supposed to go left when I clearly knew I hit it wrong. But that said, Jack, it was fun. Like, last week was a lot of fun. We didn't get a win. Kurt Kitayama picked up his first PGA Tour victory, and then watching him kind of with Rory McIlroy down the stretch there, and then Harris English in the mix, our guys in the mix. Last week was a lot of fun. We've had some really good golf. How do you feel about what we've been watching, even though, the outrights haven't been as successful lately?
Yeah, the only way I think it could get more fun is if we had some winning outright tickets. You did mention that you hit Chris Kirk at the Honda Classic, which that came down to I didn't know which one of those two guys wanted to win the tournament. I mean, it looked like Cole had it in the bag, and then he nearly chipped it over the green, and then makes a mess of it coming back. It was chaotic. I'm glad you came out on the right end of the outcome, though. Last week, though, was awesome at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And a lot of the big name guys in the mix. You mentioned Tyrrell Hatton kind of crumbling down the stretch and throwing an absolute temper tantrum as Tyrrell Hatton is always good for whenever he's on camera. Honestly, I saw that the PGA Tour and Netflix just renewed season 2 of Full Swing. Give me a whole episode of just Tyrrell Hatton yelling at himself. Like, I hate Tyrrell Hatton, honestly, because he is a little bit of a complainer, and there's no golf course, I think, on this world, maybe other than Bay Hill, actually, that he likes. But after seeing the way he was acting on the greens there down the stretch, as you mentioned, he's like,
yeah,
I don't even know if he likes Bay Hill anymore. So, but it was an entertaining finish, man. And honestly, out of all the guys in the mix, I think very few people probably had Kurt Kitayama being the one to come out of that bunch, but he is a guy who, over on the DP World Tour has some legitimate victories in good fields and over good players. A lot of people felt like it was only a matter of time for him to kind of cash in here in the United States, and what a big one to win at the Arnold Palmer Invitational over, basically all of the PGA Tour's elites. Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, Harris English is someone who's kind of been turning around there as of late. Scotty Scheffler, my boy, was in the mix. So yeah, some good golf that we've been watching lately. I think that's only going to transpire over to this week with the Players Championship. And it's just a reminder, Joey, that golf season is in, not to, quote the Netflix show, but it's in full swing now because we've gotten the Arnold Palmer Invitational, the Waste Management's past us, the Players is this week. We're about a month away from the Masters too, the first legitimate major of the season. So golf season's here, baby. I'm excited. Hopefully we can kind of change the tides and find what I was on during the fall swing, because that was an amazing run that I was on. And since the turn of the new year, it's been all cold for me, bro. Hopefully that changes this week at TPC Sawgrass.
I think that's always usually how it is, right? Like you got out that little heater, you're going to go through a little rough patch, and then you kind of like everything starts to level out. At least that's what we hope. You might hit them not as frequently, but the once every 3-4 weeks, we'll take that. I mean, honestly, how many wins would you say it takes a year to even be profitable? Because I don't think we need that many wins to be profitable at this.
If I'm betting the full slate, like I basically have done this year, there's only been, I think, 2 or 3 events that I haven't bet. I think it's 2. I didn't bet on the Fortinet to begin the year, and then I didn't bet on, was it the Farmers, I believe it was the other one I haven't bet. So going to be 40-something events. I don't know, 6 wins, 5-6 wins if I'm betting every week would be a solid year. And look, I rattled off 3 in the fall to get those out of the way. So that does make life a little bit easier, I guess, but consistency is kind of the thing we're going for here on this show. So hopefully we can be rattling off a little bit more consistently. You had a winner 2 weeks ago. That means we're due right now at the Players Championship.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely think that 6 number, though, is a healthy number to kind of look for, at least as an individual. As a show, who knows how many we rattle off this year, right? Like,
I think we're at 5.
We're at 5
season.
Even if it's 6 for the show, if the listeners are picking and choosing which they should be anyways, do your own research, look at your own data points, find out which golfers you want to bet on that week. For whatever reason, find your narrative, like Jack likes to say. Find your narrative for why you want to bet on somebody. If we're doing that consistently week in and week out, and you, the listeners, are just taking something away from whatever it is we're talking about, and maybe it pushes you away from a golfer that we were dumb enough to bet on and they did not win. And if that's the case, then fine, it helped, right? So I think that's all we can look for. But yeah, man, 6 would be beautiful. The start I had was not great, so if I can somehow get my way up to 6, I'd be more than happy. We still have a lot of golf, though, left to go, and we're entering that. We've already kind of entered that prime season type of golf here. And the Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass, this is going to be fun. You mentioned the Island Green there. I kind of want to touch on that just a little bit. I don't know if you saw, Jack, the PGA Tour had a tweet they put out. They were tracking amateurs in January. They sent out, the PGA Tour was tracking all the amateurs that played there, the 17th hole, for one day. So out of them, 95 players played that hole, and 102 balls were hitting the water on that hole, that 17th Island Green, the par 3 there. And it's only 137 yards. Like, it's a short shot, but it is so difficult, so tough. Just speaking specifically about that hole, I find that incredible. I think that last hole is really difficult too, that 18th hole. We've kind of seen that, though, lately. Like the courses and the events they've been playing here leading up to this, it's definitely been the tougher down the stretch. You're getting those really tough holes, Jack. What do you think about, just from a layout standpoint, what's your kind of course breakdown and feeling about this coming into it?
Yeah, that's actually, excuse me, it's actually a great point that you bring up. The Honda Classic PGA National is a great stretch of closing holes. The Bear Trap obviously is part of that as well, which is three of the toughest holes in golf. Arnold Palmer designs the Arnold Palmer Invitational. That guy kind of knows what he's doing, architecting a course. So, of course, he has a great finish in line last week at Bay Hill. And then here at the Players Championship, you mentioned the 18th hole, water all up the left side. Cameron Smith actually hit it into the water on the 18th hole, if you remember, and gave Anirban Lahiri some life there late. So that always makes for an awesome finish on the final hole. The 17th, you mentioned, the Island Green. There's no runoff area. I mean, you literally got to pure your wedge. Right? You're not going to end up on the green. It's no gimme, especially down the stretch on Sunday. And even the hole before that, Joey, 16, it's a par 5, but it's a risk reward type of shot where if you want to go for the green in 2 and, maybe you need an eagle down the stretch to vault you up the leaderboard, you do got to take on some water in order to carry that green with your second shot. So it is quietly one of the best finishing stretches in golf, and seemingly every tournament it plays a factor into the final outcome. So it's a great finish, and it's a great golf course altogether. As I talked about during the intro, though, a little frustrating for us who are trying to bet on it because there's not a whole lot of consistency. I mean, year after year, you look at guys who win this tournament, the next year they very oftentimes miss the cut or aren't even close to being in contention. There's just so much volatility on this course because there's water all over the place. There's water on 16 of the 18 holes here. There's a ton of bunkers, and there's out of bounds and hazard areas off the tee box. So if you're wayward, you're going to get a penalty stroke, and you're staring double bogey, triple bogey right in the face. And one shot can really kind of make or break your tournament. That's why there is so much volatility at this course. So it really does make things a little difficult to predict, but it's a course that's, going to test players. And ultimately the way that a lot of people break it down is it's a ball striker's paradise. If you're playing clean from tee to green, that's the biggest key to having success at TPC Sawgrass. You got to be finding the fairway off of the tee box. And by the way, Joey, I don't know if you heard this, but supposedly the rough is up to 3.5 inches this year as opposed to the 2.5 inches that it usually is at. So they're playing the rough even longer this year at TPC Sawgrass. It's going to emphasize hitting the fairways even more. And then with Pete Dye being the architect, we see on a lot of his courses, smaller green complexes. These aren't necessarily the smallest on tour, but they're still going to make players be precise with their irons, or else you're going to be in trouble and you're going to have to scramble. So I think having a good tee to green game is really the most crucial thing about TPC Sawgrass. And kind of looking at the top finishers over the years, strokes gained approach and strokes gained off the tee have been two predominant factors for top 10 finishers here year after year, more so than a lot of other courses that we see on the schedule. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Bermuda grass greens, over the years, we haven't seen necessarily good putters win this tournament. Justin Thomas has even won this tournament losing strokes on the greens, but you have to be so dialed in with your irons that it's not even going to matter. So ultimately, I think it does come down to the tee to green game. You got to be able to make putts in crunch time on Sunday, but I think those are the biggest stats to look at. And then a couple of things that I wanted to mention as well. Proximity from 175 to 200 yards and 200 yards and up is really big at this course. On the more difficult par 4s, that's where a lot of the shots are going to be coming from, especially if players are going to be clubbing down in order to find the fairway. They're going to have to be playing well with their longer irons from that 150, 175, 200-yard buckets. So I thought those were some key proximities to look at this week. And I also think par 4 scoring in general is going to be really massive. I've heard a lot of people talk about the par 5s and taking advantage of those being key stats, Joey, but 3 of them are very easy for the field to get to. Only number 9, which gets over 600 yards, is the one that players are going to be think about laying up to, and that still has a very high birdie rate. All 4 of these par 5s are going to be gettable for most of the field. Do you have to take advantage of those in order to, capitalize on your scoring opportunities? Yes. But I think the par 4s, especially the more difficult ones, the ones we're going to see on the back 9 on the weekend when they play longer and the most difficult, I think those are really the holes that I want to see which players perform well on those in particular. So those are kind of some of the key stats that I'm looking at for this week. But all in all, it's a really difficult course to break down because of all the volatility that I've mentioned. And bringing it into this used to be a tournament that was played in May, bringing it into March. It really hasn't changed. It hasn't really helped out so far. In fact, we've kind of seen the weather play more of a factor at this tournament in March. I was actually texting one of my buddies who lives down in the Orlando area, and he was telling me he got absolutely dumped on last week, and that's just kind of March weather in Florida. So it doesn't look like we're going to be dealing with weather a lot this week, Joey, but that is one thing that's also played a factor in this course, at this course in the past. And I think one thing to look at before you maybe solidify some final bets, or if you're playing DraftKings daily fantasy sports, like go and look at the weather, go and look at the wind before you finalize anything, because last year at the Players, I don't know if you remember, but there was a massive wave stack where I think it was the AM PM wave got absolutely wiped out and the other wave got a massive advantage. So those are things to kind of consider here at TPC Sawgrass as we are ready for the 2023 Players Championship, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Check those tee times. Check the weather. Check the tee times. I fully believe in that type of research. It's not something I've done yet, but now that you brought up that point, absolutely encourage people to do that. I love how you also like nuked maybe 25% of my research while you were talking in a good way, because now I have to go back and look and see, okay, what did I miss here? And also, like, you bring up some great points about the par 5 scoring, because par 5 scoring was one of the things I was looking at this week with stroke gain approach and then driving accuracy and tee to green. You said that too. They're just off the tee in general. The par 5 scoring, now I'm kind of like, maybe I shouldn't be looking at that, because the 18th though is a par 5, right? Is it not the 18th?
16.
16. Okay. 16 is a par 5.
Well, one thing that I kind of thought about too, baked into my modeling when I'm looking at shots from over 200 and over 175, more so from over 200, but that's kind of already a built-in par 5 statistic, because with the way most of these guys hit the ball, you're not going to be hitting shots from over 200 on the par 4s. That's kind of a built-in par 5 stat already. So the guys who are good on proximity from over 200 yards theoretically should be decent par 5 players. That's just kind of the way I'm personally thinking about it. But of course,
sure,
everyone thinks about things differently. There's different statistics to dive into. I've seen many different people ignore par 4 scoring and look at the par 5 scoring. This is just kind of the way that I'm going about it.
No, that's a great point. Honestly, if you're dialed in on that proximity and you're looking at those yardage buckets, sometimes the par 5 scoring really doesn't. That's a very general stat. Like par 3, par 4, par 5 scoring, I don't tend to take a ton of weight on those. Like if you were to say, okay, these are the weights that you're putting into your model this week, that sort of thing, the weight on the model is not very, very high for me. Either way, like par 4, I think par 4 you really tend to look at a little bit closer most weeks, because
there's so many of them.
There's so many. It takes into account, if you're not doing well on par 4s, you're probably not having a good week every week. Like it's just law of averages, right? There's more of them. So definitely love what you have to say there, though. And just addressing this quick comment here, Tony, the president at OnTapSportsNet.com. Go ahead and check out all the research over there, by the way. Check out Jack's articles. He's got 2 of them out this week, breaking down this tournament. And, all the podcasts, too, that come with On Tap Sportsnet. Cubs on Tap, Bulls on Tap, Four Feathers podcast, On Tap Bets. This is, a branch off of that with Golf on Tap. The Sox guys, Sox on Tap, all that stuff for the podcasting. Bears on Tap. But Tony here says, would either of you be able to hit the island green? I'll just answer first. Absolutely not, Jack. I don't think I can. What do you think?
The competitor in me wants to say yes, because I feel like, if I ever do somehow get to play on TPC Sawgrass, it's like, well, now I got to go prove it and I got to back up my talk. It's a low club. That's the one thing I'll give myself. If I had to hit like a 5 iron into that thing, I'm in trouble. But the fact that I can hit an 8 iron, like lower lower groove club. I can get some loft on it, a little bit more control. Maybe I'm too confident in myself like a fool, but I'm going to say yes. I'm probably wrong. Hopefully though, I'll be able to find out one day, because that would be pretty cool. And it's probably on my bucket list of golf fan things to do is play the Island Green 17th at TPC Sawgrass. I mean, right? It's got to be on the list somewhere.
Dude, do you know how sick that would be? Like, I know, so I've heard it's really expensive to play the course, obviously, and for good reason, but I think it would be totally worth it. Like, I would totally play just to be on that. I mean, just legendary course as it is, but just that Island Green. I saw somebody in that amateur video, by the way, that PGA Tour tweeted out. Somebody just hit it like directly into the water. It wasn't even like they didn't even get any loft on it. Just plunk right in the water. And I was like, wow, that's going to be me, Jack. That's going to be me. With that said, though, past winners here. Let's get to some past winners. I don't know if you mentioned this, Jack. Cam Smith, 2022 last year, 13 under. Justin Thomas in 2021. Skip 1 year. Rory McIlroy, 2019. Webb Simpson, Siwoo Kim, Jason Day, my boy, 2016. Ricky Fowler in 2015. So those are the past 7 winners here. Average score over the past 7 PGA championships is 14 under. Golfers of interest. Jack, this is, I mean, can we say the entire freaking top of the board? I mean, I hate saying that, but it's kind of true. I mean, there's a couple of them that I've eliminated, but I've only placed one bet. We talked pre-show. I only placed one bet going into this. Let's go ahead and look at the top because I want to get your thoughts. Rory McIlroy, 9.5 to 1. Jon Rahm, 10 to 1. Scotty Scheffler, 10 to 1. Patrick Cantlay, 16 to 1. JT and Max Homa both 20 to 1. Thoughts on this first group here? Obviously, the top 3 make a ton of sense as far as favorites go.
So conflicted with the top of this betting board. Obviously, Jon Rahm is been on an absolute heater here to start 2023. He's been a man on a mission. It almost feels like getting him at plus 1,000, like that feels like the fair Jon Rahm number at this point. Like that feels like the number we're going to get at Jon Rahm at the Masters if he's keeping this up. So that oddly feels like a fair price. I'm probably not going to get there. The one I've been looking at the most, I've been really conflicted because there's 2 ways I'm going to go about this. I haven't made my decision at the top of the betting board. I've made some final calls on the back end, but here's where I wanted to talk through things the most. I'm very interested in Rory. I'm going to pass on Jon Rahm, pass on Scotty. Obviously, it terrifies me. I don't like to do that, but the one I am interested in the most is Rory with enhanced odds at Bet Rivers, which, by the way, for everyone listening out there, I definitely recommend downloading Bet Rivers, getting an account if you don't have one already, and looking at the enhanced odds that they offer, because it's a lot better than the odds that you see on Odds Checker for a majority of these guys. And that's why we bet on things and have different sports books, right? Is to get So I definitely recommend checking out our sponsor, Bet Rivers, and using and taking advantage of those enhanced odds. Rory at plus 1,000.
Can I throw a little quick promo code on tap? Promo code on tap at Bet Rivers. Promo code on tap. There you go, Jack. There you go.
Absolutely. So Rory's the one I've been looking at the most. Obviously came so close last week at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He had a putt on 18 to force a playoff, just barely missed it. Out of these big 3 guys, he's the one who still doesn't have a win on the PGA Tour in the year of 2023. He did win the CJ Cup back in the fall, but still, he's got to kind of feel like the odd man out after seeing what Jon Rahm's been able to do here to kick off the new year. Scotty Scheffler obviously just won at the Waste Management. I feel like there's that fire burning inside of Rory to get one of these big designated events to solidify himself as the number 1 player in the world, which is what he would become once again with a victory here. So Rory is intriguing to me. He has a pretty solid track record here at TPC Sawgrass, not only with the victory, but 3 other top 12 finishes. Hasn't really, I mean, he's only played it once actually since it got moved over into March, but he's the one I've been looking at the most. A lot of success in Florida throughout his career. He's won at PGA National. He's won at Bay Hill before. A lot of top 10s in the Sunshine State. He always putts better on Bermuda greens. 8 of his victories in his PGA Tour career has come on those surfaces. So I'm either going Rory McIlroy, or I think I'm going to go with the combo of Patrick Cantlay and Max Homa. I haven't decided which way I want to go about it yet, but I only have enough to bet for one Rory or Cantlay and Homa. Patrick Cantlay's been playing some great golf as of late. Honestly, if you look at his last 10 starts, he's really been right there in most of them. Looking at his stats, he's gaining all across the board, a really great driver of the ball, gaining with accuracy simply like every week for the most part. And he's also known to be one of the better putters. And while I've talked about an emphasis on ball striking, I just feel like Patrick Cantlay and his ability to make putts in big tournaments, maybe not major tournaments, but the Memorial we've seen, the BMW Championship, I feel like his style of play, when he's gaining in all 4 categories like we've seen in his last 2 starts, I feel like TPC Sawgrass is a course that would translate really well for his game, despite him not having a ton of success here in his career. And for Max Homa, I kind of feel the same thing. Like, Max Homa has really cemented himself as a superstar on the PGA Tour with what he's been able to do this season. Wins at the Farmers and the Fortinet, a couple of other high-end finishes, came close a couple of weeks ago when he was duking it out with Jon Rahm. I think Max Homa is a legitimate great golfer, and he's also a guy who, come Sunday, I have confidence in him to make his putts. Another guy who's gaining in all 4 categories. Last week, he had the worst putting performance of his career in, I think it was the last 12, 13 months. And he was still gaining all across the board and still wound up having a really solid finish. So I do have confidence in Max Homa to bounce back. Honestly, when I'm talking through it right now with you, Joey, I think I'm probably going Cantlay and Homa to have 2 of those guys, although it is awfully scary to pass on the top 3 of Rory, Rahm, and Scheffler. What are you thinking? I know you're not a guy that loves betting here at the top. Are you passing on all of the big 3, or are you passing on everyone that's at under 20 to 1? What do you got for me?
Well, it's tough for me now because I'm looking at the odds and it's different than what I was looking at before. So I guess my guy that I'm looking at, I'm not passing on this entire range. But you look at this top of the board, right? Just the top 3 there. You talked about at the very top, or a little bit about the introduction and talking about this course. Strokes gained tee to green. That's going to matter this week.
Oh, yeah.
Rory McIlroy is number 1 this season in strokes gained tee to green. Number 2 is Scotty Scheffler. Number 3 is Jon Rahm. So you look at this top of it makes sense why the favorites are the favorites. And I mean, who can argue? I mean, I've pretty much already said that, but who can argue with who's up here? And you make a ton of great points about that 10 to 1 number on either Scheffler or Rahm. Scheffler's on fire. Scheffler is absolutely on fire. And we were just saying that about Rahm. Like, Rahm might have been going through one of the best stretches we've seen. And then Scheffler has just picked up where he left off when he had the heater last year. So Rory came into this season on fire from, the Euro Tour and then coming over here to PGA, and he doesn't have a win here lately, so to speak, but like still a win this season, right? So I mean, it is very, very tough for me to decide there. And I think when it's that tough, I just say screw it. And I go against all of them because I don't want to be the one that picked the wrong guy out of those 3. I think Cantlay and Homa make a ton of sense. I mean, Homa this season, he's 9th in strokes gained tee to green. So, I mean, then you look at his approach numbers, and it's like the guy past 24 rounds is 1st in strokes gained approach. So the irons are kicking ass. Like everything, you talked about him closing it out, making putts down the stretch, being clutch, turning into a superstar really in front of our eyes. I think that's legitimately what's happening here with Max Homa. We always kind of saw that talent, but now he seems to be putting it together and it's more consistent and the clutch factor is there. So no arguments for me with what you're planning on doing with Cantlay and Homa, even though I didn't really talk about Cantlay, but you made a lot of great points already about him. I'm going to go with Justin Thomas, I think. So skipping this entire region here, I think Thomas, man, like he's got a ton of cuts he's made here. He did win an event here, 2021. And we can't really look at recent history here or course history here as like a deciding factor. So that's not really why I'm going with this. I just feel like he's kind of hovered around that T20, T21 range the last couple of weeks, but he does have some pop-offs here and there before that where he gets close. I mean, T21 at Bay Hill last week. Thomas is 5th in strokes gained on par 5s over the past 24 rounds. And we talked about that, you kind of talked about how that really doesn't matter as much this week because the par 4s are probably more critical. But I still think it weighs a part, at least for JT, a guy who can definitely birdie those holes, come in and definitely make up some ground there. And maybe he does get a little aggressive and takes that eagle approach on that one hole you were talking about. Was that the 16th, I think?
Yes, 16.
16th hole. So maybe he's a guy that does take that aggressive approach and, boost it up a little bit. I don't know. I just think JT's kind of due here. And you mentioned full swing. Full swing, dude. I was liking watching Justin Thomas. Maybe I'm just becoming even more of a fan of Justin Thomas, and I want him to win now. So, yeah, I'm gonna go there with 20-1. I think that's a pretty fair number for Justin Thomas.
Yeah, this does feel like a great course for JT, a place where he's able to play all the shots that he has in his bag. Obviously, we've seen him have that huge sweeping hook off the tee that he's utilized here in the past. He has just I have difficulty kind of deciphering his stats because the irons probably aren't where I'd want to see them, but at the same time, he's still churning out good finishes, even though his game hasn't really hit a peak level yet. And we know Justin Thomas is capable of winning premier golf tournaments when he's playing at his peak level. I just feel a little bit differently about it. I get why people are on JT here. It feels like this might be the most JT course of all of them, but there are some other guys I like in this range, and we each have to make our decisions. So I'm out on JT, but I get it.
Yeah, totally fair. You got to do the elimination thing with some of these guys. So I get it as well. Colin Morikawa, 22-1. Xander Schauffele, 25-1. Jason Day, 28-1. I got a little pause there, but just because I know what you're about to say, but we'll get there in a second. Tony Finau, great all around. I feel like he's a great fit here as well. Strokes gained tee to green. I think he's just below the 3 that I mentioned this season. I think he's 4th in tee to green, 28-1. And then Victor Hovland, 30-1. I see a lot of buzz. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about Hovland. Is this going to be like his big win? Is this, maybe? I don't know, Jack. Give me your thoughts here. 22-1 with Colin Morikawa all the way to Victor Hovland, 30-1.
Yeah, I feel like Colin Morikawa, he opened at 33-1, by the way, which
wow.
Maybe if that number was still there, I would have jumped on it. At the same time, I'm never right about Morikawa. It seriously feels that way. It feels like whenever I'm on him, he's missing the cut, and when I'm not on him, he's competing. At least that's how it's been so far this season. A lot of good finishes for Colin Morikawa, and feels like people aren't talking about it enough. And I mentioned this feels like a ball striker's paradise, a course where a lot of people have always pegged as a great fit for Morikawa's game and his irons. I'm going to pass on him, but of anyone that I'm going to pass on outside of the big guns, the big 3 that I mentioned, I think Colin Morikawa scares me the most. I honestly might pass on this entire range here, Joey. The one that does have interest to me because I'm a sucker is Victor Hovland. As you mentioned earlier, he's generating a lot of buzz. The one thing that just keeps going through my head is Victor Hovland doesn't win in North America. He never has done it. He wins all these international tournaments in the Bahamas and in Puerto Rico and the Hero World Challenge and in Mexico. He wins at Mayakoba. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I love about Victor Hovland's game. I'm starting to get a sense of the Sunday scaries from Victor Hovland. It feels like whenever he's there on Sunday, he just doesn't have his best day. Now, to be fair, I will say his ball striking and approach numbers have been on this kind of insane trajectory for the last 4 weeks, and he's hitting the ball incredibly well right now. That's what has me intrigued, and the fact that I've been on Hovland a couple times the last few weeks. He was there going into Sunday and just didn't have the final round that he needed to get over the hump. I think that's what's kind of drawing me back to him the most. So if there's anyone I'm going to bet on in this range, it's going to be Victor Hovland. But honestly, I could see myself passing on this range entirely as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Hovland's so tough for me. The North American, lack of wins on North American soil, it doesn't really – I guess that's not really what's going to push me away ultimately. It's just – I don't know, man. There's so many guys here that you're going to give him the same price when he's not unproven. Victor Hovland's very proven, but he's kind of unproven in these sort of events. At least in this season, he needs a big win this season. So maybe it is his time, but I don't know, man. I can't really quite justify it when my boy is sitting right next to him.
You're just looking at the camera and say, I'm a loser.
All right. I'll be a loser again this week. So, yeah. And Morikawa.
How much money has he made you this season?
A little bit on the top 40s and stuff or whatever.
That's fair.
But definitely zero in the outright column. Absolutely zero. So he's lost me a little money. I'll be honest. He's lost me a little money. But Morikawa, dude, I really want to bet Morikawa. I do feel I get that feeling too where I'm not really quite right about him, but it seems like most of the weeks that I am on him, he's near the top. So it kind of makes me, if I have that feeling gut-wise that I want to go with Morikawa, this seems like an incredible fit for him here, especially with the iron play. I think he can truly take down this tournament. It wouldn't be priced this way if he couldn't, but definitely interest in Morikawa. I'm not there yet, but I may get there by the end of the night. I don't even think I'm being a homer anymore, though, when it comes to Jason Day. I know I'm kind of a loser with always betting him. The guy has 4 straight top 10s, Jack.
How many of those has he actually contended for a win?
I don't know, but
kind of one. He's backdoor top 10 J-Day is going to be his new nickname.
I mean, maybe, but okay, if he just puts together, and I know that's a big if, but if he puts together a solid 4 rounds of golf, the guy's third in bogey avoidance. This guy, I mean, better odds earlier in the week. So somebody pushed him down here because he had better odds. I looked at it and I'm like, ooh.
He's so popular this week, in which I do understand. If there's a couple places, it's Torrey Pines and TPC Sawgrass where you want Jason Day. So I do get it. And he's been putting remarkably well.
It's the course. I think for me, it's not only the performance lately of where he's placing, it's what he's improved on the most. And I mentioned that early in the fall swing, right? We talked about it. I mentioned how there were things.
You've been on him for months. You've been on
There were things that were leading me this way because I was one of the first people to criticize people. What the fuck are you doing betting on Jason Day? Are you kidding me? You're just going off track record. The guy's terrible right now. He's legitimately pretty good. And if you're saying, has he been in true contention? No, he hasn't. There hasn't been a Sunday where I've looked at him and been like, Jason Day really has a chance to win. No, he doesn't really put himself in that position. Even if he is come Sunday, he winds up falling out to 8th or 10th or something like that. So just going to go for this event in this course. I do really like him here because he does have a win as well. But with that said, I will stop with the Jason Day love fest, which I do every week. Matthew Fitzpatrick, 35-1. Sungjae Im, 35-1. Will Zalatoris, not hearing his name a bunch lately. I'm really not. I don't know if you are, Jack, but I'm just getting weird vibes about, is it going to be sneaky this week with Willie Z? I don't know, 35-1. Jordan Spieth, 40-1. Tom Kim, 40-1. Terrell Hatton, the Mad Hatter, the freaking anger management dude, needs anger management, 40-1 for Terrell Hatton. Jack, anyone in this 35 to 40 range?
Yeah, there's a couple guys. Will Zalatoris is someone who I'm probably not going to ultimately end up betting on, but I will say Justin Thomas is 20-1. Colin Morikawa is 22-1. I know Will Z has dealt with a back injury, but he's shown that he's come back. He's played consistent golf now, playing back-to-back events. He had a solid finish a couple of weeks ago. He's kind of like the same type of elite ball striker. So like getting him at 35-1 feels like a pretty good price. And I will say ever since like his last 10 starts on the PGA Tour, he's actually legitimately been a fine putter. Fine putter. And I don't know if people just have that perception about him because of how big an issue that was early on in his tour career, but he has kind of figured it out on the green. So I would understand Willie Z at 35-1. Maybe I feel like people aren't interested in him at all. If I can get Will Z at 40-1, that might have to be an auto bet for me. The other guy that I'm thinking about under 45-1 is, well, actually, enhanced odds, I got somebody who's at 45-1 at 50-1. The other one I'm thinking about is Tom Kim. And
yes, let's hear it.
Debutants have never done good at this event. But Tom Kim just feels like such a good fit for this course where distance doesn't matter. Sawgrass is only 7,200 yards. You don't have to be extremely long to have success if you're good with your long irons, which Tom Kim really is. A great long iron player, hits a ton of fairways, always among the leaders in strokes gained approach. It really just comes down to whether or not he's going to be able to putt. And we've seen when he does putt well, he has the ability to take down tournaments. And we saw him, one of those tournaments that he took down was Sedgefield, the Wyndham Championship, which has been, a lot of people consider it a kind of a comp course to TPC Sawgrass. And we saw Tom Kim have one of the best putting performances that we've seen on the PGA Tour in the last couple of years in order to win that tournament. So it feels like if there's someone who could break the bad debutante streak here at Sawgrass, it feels like it could be Tom Kim. So those are the two that I kind of have interest at in this range. Not sure if I'm going to bet either of them. It ultimately comes down to what decisions I've made at the top.
I like that you mentioned Sedgefield. It's not like that was if I can remember correctly, I don't think that's like a crazy great field.
No.
Most of the time, but Will Z is top 30 the last 2 years at Sedgefield. So I don't know. I mean, Willie Z, you make a great point. Like if he gets to 40-1, I don't know how you don't do it. That said, there's a guy with some huge name value down there at 80-1 in Matsuyama, Hideki Matsuyama. And I don't know, man. Like, is price like we look at prices all the time, but how serious do you think? I think Willie Z is in way better form than Matsuyama. Can definitely do it, even though he's priced that way as well. But I think Willie Z, I might have to jump on even at 35 because you mentioned the ball striking skills that he has, and this could be a good spot there for him. Who was the other guy that we just talked about? I'm losing my spot here. Willie Z, Tom Kim. You meant, yeah, Tom Kim with the accuracy. I think this is absolutely a spot that you got to look at Tom Kim. And I know the guys that haven't really played here or anything like that, not generally, you don't want to bet on them. He's a guy that I think you're talking about, a guy that needs a big win or like coming out party type of win. This could be that for Tom Kim. So I do like that number, the way that he's looking here. What is he, 40-1? Yeah, 40-1 for Tom Kim. I do like that. Cam Young, 45-1. Keegan Bradley, your boy, 45-1. Shane Lowry, a lot of buzz on him, 50-1. Siwoo Kim, 55-1. Corey Connors, another one of your boys, 60-1. And then Keith Mitchell and Ricky Fowler, both 60-1. I think Keith Mitchell's kind of becoming my boy. What do you think over here in this territory?
Yeah, this is where I'm ending things for the most part. I feel like after I guess I'm ending at 80-1. But I feel like realistically, what we're seeing in today's age on the PGA Tour, in a tournament like this, in a designated event, this is where I'm personally gonna start cutting it off. I get there's some guys down there who have great odds, and sure, maybe they can win, but at the same time, let's look who's been winning these designated events. John Rahm, Max Homa. But let's look at who's been winning the big-time PGA Tour. Who's won the Players' Championship the last 3 years since this has been moved to March? It's been Rory McIlroy, Justin
Yeah.
Cameron Smith. I mean,
Yep.
good golfers are winning golf tournaments. I mentioned this on the show recently. I've never hit an outright bigger than 40-1.
Imagine that, though. Good golfers are winning golf tournaments. Like that statement, yeah.
It's just kind of how it works. So I'm starting to be real picky down here. I have 2 bets in. The 2 bets that I have, I got Keegan Bradley at 50-1. My boy Keegan he's playing the best golf of his life, man. I mean, I am a sucker for Keegan. I'm definitely positive on the Keegan train in my career. Am I super concerned about the Sunday scaries? Absolutely. Keegan always gives me the Sunday scaries, but legitimately, he's playing the best golf of his career. He can putt. Keegan Bradley can freaking putt. I mean, it's remarkable. And when he's gained strokes with the putter since the start of this season in the fall, he's got a victory, a T5, a 4th place finish a couple of weeks ago. I mean, his resurgence on the greens has really flipped his career. We've always known he's a great ball striker. He's still regularly gaining in that category. The putter's just come along with it. And I no longer feel like at this point where Keegan Bradley is at right now, given his recent history, I don't feel like this is too big of a tournament for him to win. I feel like he legitimately has the full package. Now, if he putts like shit, he's not going to have a chance. But if he can putt the way that he has since the start of the season, I think Keegan at 50-1, where I got him at, is a pretty darn good number. The other one that I got earlier on in the week was Siwoo Kim 70-1. Proven winner at this event, loves him some Pete Dye courses, won kind of recently on the PGA Tour, and ever since he's flipped to the long broomstick putter when he made that change after the President's Cup, he's been churning out top 20 finishes, been right around that T20 mark. So I think 70-1 is a really fair number for Siwoo Kim, a guy who legitimately down here actually has winning upside. We've seen it at this course, and he's got some of the best track record on Pete Dye's courses of anyone in this field. So I got Keegan and I got Siwoo Kim both locked in. Those are the only 2 official bets that I've made so far, Joey. What do you like from this range?
I really do not hate it. I can't get behind either one of them this week that you just mentioned. But I don't know. It's just, I mean, you make a lot of good points, though. Like, I don't know what else to say about Siwoo. You can throw him into your boy range. Like, that's the your boy bucket at this point, too, because he gets mentioned a ton on the show. But, yeah, I don't know. He has, like you said, he's done well here. He's obviously got a victory, so I could see it. It's not like I can't see it happening. Keegan, I don't know. I don't even know if it's the Sunday scaries. It's just something is telling me, like, when the big boys are out to play, he's not going to be there, like, towards the end. And I could be wrong about that 100%, but maybe it's just a gut feeling this week. And that said, I'm going to give you a worse name that's in the same range that I like. So Keith Mitchell. He's been playing really well lately.
Yes.
He's interesting just from a point of, like, he's always been the long hitter. He's always been really good off the tee. He can bomb it for sure, but he's improving the accuracy, Jack. He's 158th 2 seasons ago. He was 158th in driving accuracy. So far this year, he's 11th. 14th in par 5 birdie or better rate. I mean, the accuracy, though, is enough for me to be like, this is a huge improvement. Because if you can hit it far and you can hit it accurate, you can 100% compete with the big boys, even though this is not necessarily a course where you have to be the longest of hitters. But that said, if the accuracy's there and he's shown that he can make some putts here lately too, yeah, I'm in on Keith Mitchell. I think it's a fair number. At the end, do I really, really see him winning this tournament with all these guys in this field? No, absolutely not. But 60-1, that's a price I'm willing to take a shot at. Just kind of similar to the reasons why you're taking a shot there at Siwoo Kim and Keegan Bradley. It's kind of like a pick and choose type thing. If I'm in that range, I'm taking Mitchell, but I totally get the other ones there too. Chris Kirk is 80-1. Just gave me a victory recently. Thank you, Chris Kirk. I won't be in on you this week, though. Hideki Matsuyama, 80-1. Tommy Fleetwood, 80-1. Thegala, 90-1. Sam Burns, 90-1. and we'll shut it down there because you said you had an 80-1 guy. Who's that guy? Is it the guy that gave me a victory?
He's actually someone I wrote up this week as one of my favorite long shots, but I haven't actually made that. I do really like Chris Kirk. He loves him some Florida swing, man. He's been playing excellent golf, and last week, he didn't have the best finish, but I still think Bay Hill is just way too long of a course for Chris Kirk. He gained in all metrics except for off of the tee. And go and look at what he did at the Sony Open, which is another shorter track, kind of similar to what we're going to see at TPC Sawgrass. Gained all across the board there, third place finish. The American Express gained in all 4 categories across the board. T3 finish. Goes out and gets the win at Honda. Last week still showed a lot of good signs. I just don't think that was a course that fits Chris Kirk very well. Out of all of them in the Florida swing, that feels like the one that probably doesn't suit him the best. TPC Sawgrass should be right up his alley because he's not going to have any issues with distance, and the irons have been good. The putting has been good. So I am a little interested in Kirk. Honestly, a first-round leader, Chris Kirk bet, might be more intriguing because I don't know if he's going to be I don't know if he's going to be able to come through on Sunday again. He's not going to be facing Eric fucking Cole in a playoff time. So
I was going to say that's the one thing that, like, it's ringing in my head of how lucky I got, I feel like, at the end because of both of them were shitting down their own leg. So
maybe he's a first-round leader bet.
I think I like that idea. And I don't mean to poo-poo the outright necessarily either. I don't mean to do that. I just have a hard time feeling that, like, after as long as it's been him getting that victory, a couple weeks ago, like, he's going to do it again in 2 weeks. That's kind of where I'm at with Chris Kirk. It's not that he can't win. And as a long shot at 80-1, first round leader though, I definitely I might sprinkle a little on that for sure.
The other one that the reason why I haven't bet Chris Kirk yet at 80-1 is because if Sam Burns is 90-1, I might just bet that in general. I don't care that he had genuinely, I think, one of the worst approach weeks that the PGA Tour has ever recorded last week when he went on to miss the cut. I had money on him, of course. That's just how it goes. But if you're telling me you're going to give me Sam Burns damn near 100-1, a guy who's won in Florida before, won 3 times on the PGA Tour last year, beat Scotty Scheffler in a playoff, 100-1. I don't care how bad he played last week. I've already talked about how this is one of the most volatile events where past success, sure, maybe recent form and how you've played lately kind of could come into play. But Sam Burns was also in the lead of this tournament in the 3rd round last year. 100-1 feels like a ridiculous number for Sam Burns. And if you're going to ask me, would I rather have Chris Kirk at 80-1 or Sam Burns at 90 or 100? I'm taking Sam Burns 8 days of the week, dude.
Completely agree, and you don't have to talk me into taking a long shot, but I think you just did it with Sam Burns because it feels a little bit more fluky lately, his struggles, right? It's not – it's in there. It's in there. We know it's in there. So, I think absolutely, among these names, like Matsuyama, I can't do it. Fleetwood, I can't do it.
He's got a neck injury. Call him Hideki.
Hideki Matsuyama. I'd rather feel the burn, man. I would 100% at 100-1 or 90-1, wherever you catch him at. A couple other guys here in this range. Last week's winner, 110-1, Kurt Kitayama. I skipped past Harris English, but I think he's interesting here as well. Hoagie with the approach game.
I'd shit my pants if Tom Hoagie won the Players. That would be hilarious.
Dude, so we've seen crazier things, but I don't know about all that. How's Molinari 150-1? I'm sorry, I can't do that. 150-1 Molinari. Why is that number? Am I crazy for thinking that's crazy?
Like, you think that's a good number or a bad number?
No, I think it's a bad number. I would not bet that.
Yeah,
do you think it's a good number?
No, he died in Rays Creek when Tiger buried him at the 2019 Masters. I want nothing to do with Francesco Molinari ever again until he proves to me that he's like Jason Day diet. Like, I want to see it from Jason Day probably until I ever bet him again. I'm not even coming close to betting Frankie Molinari. Not even close, bro.
Like, and this is considered a long shot at 150 to 1, but I just don't understand with the names around here. Billy Horschel, Davis Riley, Taylor Montgomery. Like, how do you, Justin Rose, who's been having a pretty good season for the most part.
He won like a month ago.
Yeah. How do you put Molinari in there? Like, it makes zero sense. I'm sorry. Can't do it.
I'm not there.
Bart Scott can't do it.
Can't wait.
Oh, can't wait. Yeah, that's what it was. Minwoo Lee, 190 to 1. Sepp Straka, 190 to 1. Webb is 180 to 1, and he's won here. Right? So
he's also good then.
Yeah, he was also good in 2018. So I get it. I'm not gonna get there either. And now I just lost completely where my odds checker was, Jack. What's after the 200 up to the 200 range? Maybe you can help us out here.
Nobody I want to bet. There's two guys over 100 to 1. I'm not going to bet them, but these are the two guys I like the most. Minwoo Lee, who actually is a legitimately good player over on the DP World Tour, 190 to 1 feels like a good number on him. And Sepp Straka, 190 to 1. Won the Honda Classic last year. He's lost in 2 playoffs since then, and one of them was a premier event, the St. Jude's Invitational, a playoff event on the PGA Tour where he played really well. Just got outdueled by Willie Z. 190 to 1 for Sepp Straka, a guy who has won on the tour. He's won and been in 2 playoffs since basically this event last year, and you're getting him at 190 to 1. I feel like that's a good number. At the same time, I'm not going to be betting on Sepp because I don't believe it, but some out there might. I think those are the two most intriguing ones to me. Other than that, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm acting like they're not here anymore.
You know who's been really good tee to green? Johnny Vegas.
Oh, Johnny Vegas is Mr. Tee to green. Like, that dude strokes off the tee like once every 2 years. He's legitimately Jesus Christ with the driver. I'm not going to bet on him, though.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that he'll, like, flirt around a top 10 early.
220 to 1. I mean, that's like I'd rather have like a top 10 on it.
Yeah, top 10 makes sense. Well, and he's also a guy that'll kind of flirt around that top 10, I feel like, and then drop down to like a T20, you know?
He loves having him some bad Sundays.
Yeah, definitely. Joel Damon's a pretty accurate driver. It's about all I can say about him this week. Brendan Todd, I feel like, is accurate. Just off the top of my head. You know, I'm going to mention somebody who I'm just right now. He's pretty much my boy now with these top 40s, and I will be taking him for a top 40. I don't believe he's golfed here at all. Thomas Dietrich, 280 to 1. Bro, I think he's going to break out and get a win soon. I don't know if it's this event. It's probably at a lesser field. Lesser type of event, not one of these elevated, not the so-called 5th major, but 280 to 1. I mean, the talent alone, I'm seeing him just kind of, he's not legitimately contending, but he's been contending over the last few weeks or so far this season. So, I mean, I don't know. Am I crazy with Thomas Dietrich? Is that too much love?
Yeah, that's he's not going to win the Players' Championship.
How about Aaron Rai with his accuracy?
He's not going to – I don't think – these guys just aren't Players' Champions in my mind. And by God, if somehow they win, then they beat me. But I'm not thinking about getting down here because there's legitimate golfers I'd rather spend my money on.
Hey, Mac Daddy's a legitimate golfer, my friend.
Why? Because he won the fucking Sanderson Farms Championship in Jackson, Mississippi against Thomas Dietrich.
Yeah, he got the cock trophy, so he's legitimate. Do you have any side bets?
Yeah, I got a couple. I already bet Minwoo Lee to get a top. I forget the number I got that at. Top 40. Got it on DraftKings. Let me pull it up here real quick. Oh, that's funny. I just opened up my DraftKings, and while you were going on your Jason Day rant for him to win the tournament, I pulled up his to miss the cut odds. He's plus 300. Kind of thinking about betting him plus 300 to miss the cut.
just to piss me off.
Just to be a dick.
Jesus Christ.
I apologize for that. No, I got old Minwoo Lee at plus 200, top 40. I think that was a good price. And then the top 20 I got was Mr. Sam Burns. 3-1 odds on Sam Burns to come top 20. I took that. I also think Tom Kim What was his line at? I wrote his down. Didn't bet it yet.
Tom Kim for top 10 or what?
Is it gone?
Top 10, Tom
I
Kim.
forget they don't have him Tom Kim on DraftKings. It's Joo Hyung Kim. Plus 175, top 20. I think that might be the better way to bet Tom Kim. Although debutants haven't found success here at all, so maybe I should just fade him completely. But those are the ones I was looking at. No international props for me. I might just honestly stick with Burns top 20 at 3-1 and Minwoo Lee top 40 2-1. I like both those lines.
I don't mind that at all, and I think if you're going to go ahead, well, I do mind the miscut one with Jason Day. The plus 300. While you take him to do the miscut, I'll take him plus 280 to get a top 10. How about that?
I like that.
We'll kind of do a little water bet, little war there.
I think this is like the worst place to bet on Jason Day to miss the cut, but at the same time, this event's random, so I'll take Jason Day to miss the cut 3-1. He's got to fall apart sometime.
There we go. If one of us wins, I mean, even if it's like a half unit, don't put a full unit on it. Do a little sprinkle, little quarter unit or something at 3-1. 3-1. That's good. That's a good payout. That's worth the risk either way, I think. Let's see some of these matchups that were kind of intriguing, I feel like. Ooh, wow. Sungjae Im is minus 142 against Jordan Spieth. Spieth is plus 112. I don't like Spieth this week, though. We didn't talk about him, really.
He's got he's been downplaying the back injury, and maybe that's the truth. The videos I saw on Twitter this past weekend, literally I was like, I'm not touching Jordan Spieth next week. But I seemingly always get him wrong, too. So take that with salt.
He's a tough one to predict, no doubt about it. Sam Burns versus Hideki Matsuyama.
That's just a gross-ass matchup. If you have the cojones to bet on either one of those guys, good for you.
I mean, Burns is plus 102. Hideki's minus 130 right now. I don't know why he's that much.
Both those guys are literally like, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, they're toss-ups. Let's see, kind of talking through these a little bit. Hoagie against Adam Scott, minus 124. Hoagie, Scott, minus 102. Any lean there?
I kind of like Adam Scott. Really good sawgrass record, really good on Pete Dye courses. I don't really love any of the older guys, but if I had to go with one of them, it would probably be Adam Scott.
Okay, that's fair. Let's see. Ooh, your little dilemma, or maybe not a dilemma, but the combo piece that you provided us early on. Patrick Cantlay versus Max Homa. On FanDuel, Homa, let's see. Cantlay is minus 148 and Homa is plus 116. That's kind of interesting. That I would, just based off of this, because I'm a sucker for if it's random, if you're basically, I think it's more 50-50 than it is Cantlay in a runaway. I would probably take Homa plus 116.
I would completely agree. Max Homa is, I think, at this point in their careers, equal golfer as Patrick Cantlay.
Last one.
No majors. They've won big tournaments, but not any majors. This would be a big one for both of them. Probably their biggest win, the biggest win of their careers for both of them.
And if I'm being honest, I think Homa is more ready. Not that Cantlay's not, but I feel like maybe less in his head right now about winning a major-like event. I think Cantlay, there could be some of that with Cantlay. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's the track record, I guess, is a little bit further there. So Finau versus Hatton, that's kind of the last one I want to bring up as like an interesting matchup. Finau is minus 118, Hatton is minus 108. Kind of a toss-up, but I think I would lean Finau. What do you think?
I don't really have a read on Tony Finau right now. He's been just kind of middling along. He's kind of like JT to me. Like, I just don't love where his game's at enough to bet on him in kind of any regard. Would I be surprised if Tony Finau was in contention come Sunday? No, not whatsoever. But when he's in a range with, kind of the best players in the world, I'd like to be a little bit more confident in their game. And a matchup even against Tyrrell Hatton, like, I hate Tyrrell Hatton, but if there's one state I'm betting on him in, it's Florida. Like, he just plays well down here in Florida. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it is. The Florida thing for him seems to be a true factor. And as mad as he gets, somehow he still golfs well. Like, even when he's pissed off, I don't really understand how you can be that angry all the time when you're golfing well. But if you're not winning, apparently if you mishit it just a little bit and you still save par, it's bad for Tyrrell Hatton. Let's see. One and done, Jack. We got to get out of here. You got a Hawks game to watch. One and done. Who's your pick this week? You're ahead. You're in the lead. We tied last week, as we mentioned. Who you got?
Real toughie here. I burned Scotty Scheffler in a good spot last week. T4. I'm not going to go with Rory. I think I'm saving Rory for the Masters. Because I really think he's going to be on a mission to win the Grand Slam. Have I used Keegan? That would be gutsy.
You might. I don't know if you have.
No, I'm gonna use Keegan Bradley.
Okay. It is a little ballsy.
I'm using Keegan at the Players. I don't think if you asked me that 2 months ago, I would have been like, "You're a fucking lunatic, Jack." But here we are.
That is contrarian. I don't think there's too many people taking him this week in their pools.
Places to use him.
You know who else is contrarian? Oh, it's a beautiful day. I'm going with Jason Day. Dude, if I don't use him this week, I don't see myself using him, especially if he doesn't do well this week. I'm not using him again the rest of the season. So why would I not use him this week, right? I haven't used him. I was going to use him one of the weeks that we did not have a show, and then we didn't have a show, and I don't even think we made a pick that week. So I'm going to go with Jason Day. It was either him or it was JT, and I feel like since I think you told me before the show that I've used JT, I'm going to go ahead and go with Jason Day. You
burned JT at the CJ Cup. That's when I actually burned Tyrrell Hatton. Neither of them came in a very good finish for either of us.
That was like your one bad week, and it wasn't even that bad for the one and done.
That was my third worst finish of the year in the one and done was a T40 from Tyrrell Hatton.
Third worst finish. I've got guys that have missed the cut, and your third worst is a T40. That's not bad. Jack, what's your favorite bet of the week then? If you're gonna pick like an outright or placement, anything like that.
I'll just fucking double down with Keegan, baby, my boy. I'm going Keegan 50-1. I actually think that's a great number. I talked about how since he's been able to actually find consistent success on the greens and hasn't putted himself out of tournaments, he's legitimately been hanging right there with the best in the world. Maybe this is too big of an event for Keegan to win. Some may say. I don't feel like he's like that's true when he's performing this well all across the board in all four categories. So yeah, one and done. Keegan Bradley at the Players. My favorite bet, Keegan Bradley 50-1. We'll figure out what I'm going to do at the top. But honestly, of all the numbers I've gotten, I do like Keegan 50-1.
It's a hell of a stand. It's a hell of a stand. And I mean, we'll see if it pays off. I think if there's anybody that's like the Keegan Bradley whisperer, it might be you. So who am I to tell you that it's wrong, Jack? One and done. We're battling it out with that. We're battling out with a miscut and a top 10. I hope you do get an outright for your birthday. I hope it's one of the ones that we're on together, so then that way we can both party a little bit.
Nice.
But either way, we need an outright victory here. It's good for the show. It's good for our souls. Jack, with that said, we need to get out of here. As I mentioned earlier, go ahead and check out all the content at ontapsportsnet.com. Check out all the podcasts. Cubs on Tap will be going live here in a little bit if they aren't already. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Jack is at Jack Bushman 2. I am at Joey Knows Nothing. We are at On Tap Golf on Twitter. We are Golf on Tap. Hopefully you win some money this week. Jack, crack them, lock them, cash them, and we're out.